Hi everyone, I'm Jamie East and welcome to Tales from the Celebrity Trenches. Now this is the first in our kind of slightly different episodes where we're going to take you behind the scenes and analyse some massive moments in pop culture, usually British, usually quite trashy. Joining me on this expedition over the next couple of episodes is Gareth Smith. He's a psychiatrist that reality TV companies use when they're putting on shows like Big Brother, and a very lovely man. A man who knows reality TV probably better than most people. He hosted Extra Factor. He hosted Celebrity Haunted Hotel. But more importantly, he got voted off Celebrity Coach Trip by Honey G. He's your friend of mine. It's Matt Richardson.
Yeah, and I lasted a week on Dancing on Ice. Come on, don't leave that out.
Oh shit, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Who were you called in to replace?
Rufus Hound.
Just to needle it in a bit
Rufus
more.
Hound was ill the same week they found some pretty awful tweets he'd done. I'm sure he was actually ill, but it was just a big coincidence.
Before we start talking about reality TV in the 2000s, a little bit of a quiz question for you. Which of these was not a reality TV show?
Yeah, okay.
Shattered, in which contestants were challenged to go without sleep for 7 days in an abandoned shopping centre in Wapping.
Okay.
Space Cadets, in which contestants were tricked into thinking they'd actually gone to space, when in fact they were on an airbase in Suffolk.
Yeah.
Number 3, Cirque de Celebrité, in which celebrities had to learn and perform circus acts like balancing on a ball.
I'm going to go with A is the fake one.
You think Shattered, which contestants were challenged to go without sleep for 7 days in an abandoned shop centre in Wapping, is fake?
Yes, because I vaguely remember the other two potentially.
Well, Dermot O'Leary would be upset with you.
Really?
Dermot O'Leary hosted Shattered. Johnny Vaughan hosted Space Cadets. Ruby Wax hosted Cirque de Celebrité. All of them were in fact real. This was very, very different.
My favourite one that I got asked to do years ago was Flockstars. Do you remember that?
No.
Celebrity sheep herding.
That cannot be real.
It was an ITV1, like
ITV1?
prime time show, and it was like Phaser from N-Dubs and a load of other celebrities learning to sheep herd, and it was terrible because the dogs can do it.
Oh my God.
They're, like border collies can just, they're bred to sheep herd, so
Yeah.
it was awful because it was easy.
It was easy because the border collies just like,
Did it?
these
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
idiots. And the other voice you can hear in the room, I'm delighted. Gareth, we have not seen each other for years and years and years. Can you tell the audience, like, why you're here?
I am a psychiatrist, but I work as part of what they call the psych team on reality shows. So I make sure that the wrong people don't end up on the wrong shows. Yeah. So if somebody's got to make sure that they're robust enough to be able to cope with the reality show, make sure they're prepared for it, and then I meet them at the beginning, support them throughout, and then afterwards in the aftercare department to make sure that they adjust to real life.
To make everyone's life a bit easier.
To try, yes, yeah. I mean, the production teams often see me as the person that sort of says no to the people they really want, to help people deal with this massive life event they're about to have that
Yeah.
they think is going to change their lives, and it will, but not always in the way that they think it's going to.
Yeah, it's not always a good
It's
thing.
not always a good thing.
No.
No.
So, scene setting, and Gareth, feel for everyone chip in here
Yeah.
because there's a long list of shows. We talked about some of them just then, but here are some of the other reality TV shows that were on in the same year as Big Brother 5 Fight Night, which is the year 2004. Right? Back to Reality was on Channel 5. That was where they'd already gone slightly meta and they were already lumping previous reality TV contestants together.
In a house inside a studio, which was the only difference between that and
Big Brother.
Yeah, I think they got sued.
Did they get sued?
Oh, really?
Well, they had the last laugh because they ended up just buying Big Brother.
Yeah, they did. Exactly.
The Farm on Channel 5, also on Farm. I mean, this series has gone down in similar to The Naked Jungle with Keith Chegwin, R.I.P., as being one of these programs that is spoken about far more than people ever watch.
What was The Naked Jungle?
So The Naked Jungle was basically
That's what
like
it says in the tin.
it was like a game show hosted by the late great Keith Chegwin, who was an amazing broadcaster.
And a lovely man.
And a lovely man. And it was basically nothing more than a slightly total wipeouty kind of game, but everybody, including Keith Chegwin, hosted it stark bollock naked.
Was he like a Was he a naturist? And that's why he did it, no?
An enforced, a naturist for cash.
He played.
It was before OnlyFans was even a thing, right? And he was,
he was a child. He was a childhood Checkers Plays Pop.
Yeah, he was the first person. He was on Swap Shop with Noel Edmonds.
Yeah, I know. But then he just decided, I'll do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone's been through those fallow years of their
we
career,
all have. That tax bill comes in, and those clothes are looking very itchy.
And I think legend has it. Maybe one of you will know. Well, you won't know because you never heard of it. But legend has it that Keith Chegwin ended up buying the master tapes off the channel specifically so it would never get shown in like clip shows, which is why you've never heard of it.
Oh, because it's never been on. It'll be all right on the night, or
exactly
shocking TV,
that,
or the worst telly.
One of those list shows that we do every year.
Yeah.
So he bought the masters and refused to kind of grant permission for it ever
Smart
to be used
move.
again. I don't even know if it's available on YouTube or not. Season 1 of The Farm had the infamous Rebecca Lewis, who was capitalising on touching the penis of allegedly touching the penis of David Beckham.
Yeah.
She did that by definitely touching the penis of a live pig on air. She wanked off a pig.
Are we still talking about Keith Chegwin here?
No, Keith had left the building by then.
Okay, cool.
She wanked off a pig live on air in a series that she didn't even win because of that, because Jeff Brazier went on to win.
Mm-hmm.
And season 2 of that went on to be won by Keith Harrison Orville, which, to those of the younger listeners, was basically a man and a puppet. How they won a farming show, got no idea. Interesting story related to Big Brother. Keith Harris was one of the only people to get booted off Big Brother's bit on the side when I was working on it.
I remember
because
this.
He was so massively racist. He was just removed.
No, he
was
wasn't.
just removed during the break.
Amazing.
And he kept blaming the duck. It was like, mate,
the duck's not real.
The duck isn't the racist
The
here.
farm might have been him going, look, I want to break out from the Keith, from Orville. And they're like, it's both Orville and you, or it's nobody.
Exactly. Well, he had another puppet called Cuddles the monkey.
That's what it was called.
Who hated the duck. That was, I ate that duck.
He used to sniff all the time, didn't he? Yeah. Oh, it was
I ate that duck.
Oh, God, no.
There was the aforementioned Shattered, which is a mad... I mean, again, would never have been allowed.
Did you?
You worked on Shattered?
But your professional opinion has to be, this shouldn't happen.
Well, it was, That was the first time I did behind the scenes, because before then I'd only been in front of camera and television. Obviously I'd worked, seen real people, but I figured, well, if they're going to keep people awake, people go psychotic if they stay awake for that. It's a torture method during the war. So I thought, well, I'm not having someone else making the decision about who's going on to the show and then me sort of having to comment on it if they're going
mad. The CIA watched this and thought, right, that's, when 9/11 happened and Guantanamo kicked off, they were like, where's that show with Dermot? We know exactly what.
I tell you what's torture, Dermot O'Leary.
It was him. And every night we did this live show, and we were just about, I think I got about 3 hours sleep a night because we were there all the
Luxury.
time.
Oh my gosh,
awful. And the girl that won it was like, we had to tell her at the end, you can go to sleep now, because she was keeping herself awake. This was after 7 days. She was like still staring at the camera.
She managed to stay awake for 7 days.
And then the final task was to find out who lasted to the end, and so they laid them all in a bed with the lights off, and they were monitoring them to see who would sleep, and she was still at that, like 40 minutes. The other two were at that. She was 40 minutes later still.
I'd forgot, because I remember watching it at the time. I'd forgotten that someone had actually managed to do it.
Well, yeah, they did. Yeah.
I mean,
it was.
How did it affect her?
She was fine because she walked away with $100,000. A couple of the guys it affected their mood for a little while, but there was no lasting effect.
No.
Yeah.
But during it, does it affect like your
cognition?
cognition?
They were tripping. Yeah, so every night we'd have these sort of tasks that got progressively more complicated as the week went on, like driving a little car around a track or trying to do puzzles, and the public could walk past and sort of see into the house because they had deliberately had a window open.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And there was people just sort of standing, sort of staggering, bumping into tables. And there was people in the gallery, they were monitoring them to see whether their eyes closed for more than 3 seconds, because that was a microsleep. So there's all people sort of doing that all the time. And as soon as they microsleep, they did a certain amount and then they were out.
Absolutely wild. I'm amazed that someone like Mr. Beast or the Sidemen haven't tried to do that again.
Yeah.
Because that is it is crazy.
Yeah.
Another one which we're classing as reality show, which I think most people will have seen in meme form nowadays, was Super Nanny on Channel 4 with Joe Frost. Tried to fix badly behaved kids, now considered, let's be honest, massively controversial because she did not put up with any form of gentle parenting.
No, and didn't it come out later on? I don't know if this is true, that she didn't really have any qualifications for it.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Like, it wasn't.
Next
there was
thing,
no
you'll be telling
basis.
me Gillian McKeith is not a real doctor. Hold on a second, I'm not having that.
to give her a proper title, Gillian McKeith.
Is she not a doctor?
Gillian McKeith?
You're kidding? No.
If you couldn't pronounce a word, right? If there was a word that just escaped your tongue muscle memory, you just wouldn't say it.
No.
Right? She was known for uttering the word unacceptable 60 times in every single episode, even to the point she was berated by one of the kids she was trying to protect or trying to change, who kept going, "It's unacceptable, not unacceptable." And like,
That's
it's
so
insane.
funny.
So Super Nanny. Then the games, which was basically It's a Knockout, like some sports.
They tried to bring that back, didn't they? Like
Yeah,
in
they
like
did,
2011, 2012.
Yeah, that was
done that too.
Olympic-style sports competitions.
You are like a king of these shows.
I'm just right around that block and back again.
I'm a Celebrity season 3 and 4 were then. So season 3 was won by Kerry Katona, life-changing for her.
But they did 2 seasons in a year.
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Season 3 was won by Kerry Katona. Just a nod to the great Bob Mortimer. Kerry Katona, as far as he knows, doesn't own a cat. And season 4 won by Joe Pasquale. Again, that changed.
Wow.
That really elevated him as well.
revitalised him, didn't it?
And finally, one that is possibly one of the most problematic reality TV shows ever to have been made then and since was There's Something About Miriam.
Worked
Now,
on that.
you worked on that as well, did you? This was one of Sky One's very early attempts at kind of joining the rat race. And Sky One had done like Benidorm. They'd got some kind of traction and some success of kind of like fly on the wall, kind of Benidorm bad behaviour, kind of like obdocs. And then they went in hard with There's Something About Miriam. This, when you read this out loud, right, you just think this is like a Donald Trump fever dream, kind of like something that would never in a million years have even been made in 1826, let alone 2004, right? Men were competing to win the hearts of a beautiful woman. So it was a dating game in a beautiful kind of like Love Island style villa.
Beautiful.
You know, incredible scenes. Very early doors, a lot of naivety in there, so that the contestants were not as self-aware in terms of as they would be now. To compete for the heart of a beautiful woman. What none of these men knew is that the woman was a trans woman, was a man. Without kind of like trying to trip myself up and get myself cancelled, I don't think she had transitioned.
No, she was pre-op. She was pre-op. She hadn't had any gender affirming surgery downstairs. She had breast implants.
And she was called
Miriam. She identified as a woman.
Well, because the point of that isn't they're trying to kiss her and all that, and it's gross. That was the point.
Ultimately, the point is that at the end of it, at the end of it, the big reveal, everyone's like, you
really
fancy a bloke.
Yeah,
That
I
was
really
genuinely
like this girl, and she isn't one.
Yeah.
That was it, wasn't it?
And you know, the ramifications and the ripple effect of that was sadly that Miriam, I think, ended up taking her own life some years later.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so
she
you know,
took a difficult life. She went on. Weirdly, they took her from. She went from that to Australian Big Brother. And she was annihilated in Australia because they're pretty transphobic and well, at the time they were. And she had a really rough time, and she'd just a lot of bad people around about her, I think, managing her. And then she ended up coming back to Mexico, where she was from, and died under mysterious circumstances. So I was called in to deal with the aftermath. So just at the reveal when they were doing the whole.
So none of the beforehand.
None of the beforehand at all. And get called in just as they were doing that reveal thing, and it was quite
even
tense. I think it's a good.
What was the reaction of the person who won?
Well, he was devastated and really upset. The guy who came second, who really fell for Miriam, was sort of black belt in karate and smashed the place up. We had to get the exec producer out of the building, as well as Tim Vincent, who was the presenter from Blue Peter days. They just scarpered when we had to get him out the window, so that the guys didn't see him and sort of snuck away, and the boys just went absolutely mental.
And I'm guessing they're not the kind of boys that are kind of like gentle and thoughtful about these things.
One of them was a Marine who'd been given dispensatory leave from the Marines to represent the Marines on television. So he felt really kind of, and they weren't. I mean, fair to the guys, they weren't homophobic or transphobic. They just felt really duped.
Yeah,
by the
it's the
production
perception.
company.
I think
that's the
anybody,
problem, isn't it? Yeah.
as anybody would, right?
Yeah. Just being lied to for that long, and also having your emotions manipulated into you falling for someone, and for that to be a big reveal must be awful.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to the concept of the show, I think that they were a bit ahead of their time, and they thought they wanted to push the boundaries of what was acceptable. You know, not what was acceptable, but people's sexuality should be about the person rather than their gender.
Yeah.
But it just didn't work out like that because it was Sky One, and it was a bit trashy.
Yeah. It's the attack was the wrong thing of how the show worked.
Yeah. But
Well, it was even like playing it straight. Things like that were all quite, deceiving someone to try and win money, but trying to make them fall in love with you. Like, all of that playing with emotion is just not something you'd do now, would you?
But even X on the Beach, at the beginning, they were told, X on the Beach, they were told, you're going on a holidays and adventure, and then not knowing that their exes weren't going to come up and then they'd start punching each other. And
I mean, TV at the time, certainly reality TV, it was a sandbox. It was, every show was essentially breaking new ground for better or for worse. The rules hadn't been written. There wasn't, in 2026, I think we generally kind of know what's acceptable and what's not. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot more empathy. Mental health is certainly far more taken into consideration, far more now than it was back then. Gareth, just talk us through a little bit about your role specifically then, because as you said, most of the shows we've mentioned here as being maybe adjacent to problematic or actually problematic.
Yeah.
You've been drafted in to try and manage that, and because how do you approach that? Because essentially contestants are brought on, and you're brought on specifically because because the makers of the show have a hunch that there's going to be some problematic elements to it, or elements that are going to require some mental coaching pre and post.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wasn't involved with Big Brother from the get-go. I got involved from series 4, but Endemol were quite immediate. They were quite proactive in that they realised that the shows they were going to make could have psychological impact. So they were the real sort of trailblazers from getting people like me involved. So they started off with a psychotherapist who saw all the contributors for season 1 and 2, and then there was a psychologist, Stephen Flett. Big shout out to him because I worked with him for years. He sort of did it single-handedly with Big Brother until I was drafted in, and we did it as a partnership, so it's sort of double blind. So we didn't speak about them. That was from Big Brother 7 onward. So, but it became a kind of standard, but then it only became standardised just before COVID, when there was the Common Select Committee investigation after the deaths of a couple of Love Islanders. Yeah. And Jeremy Kyle, and they've been very clear guidelines from Ofcom about how you treat children on television, but not about how you treat adults.
Wow.
So then,
which again, in hindsight, you look back, that's just insane.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. So then, what Ofcom did was they tiered it. So there's sort of low, medium, and high risk shows. So the high risk shows are the big ones like Big Brother, Traitors, all these kind of things. And they recommend having a psych on site 24/7, sort of assessments before and after. Medium risk is that, I suppose, observational documentaries, things like that. Low risk is popping up on the news or doing a quiz show. But even quiz shows, I've had to speak to people from quiz shows who get massively trolled, and it's social media. It's really made a huge difference. I mean, if you think back to
quiz shows on people that have fucked up,
screwed up, and you say a really stupid question, a really stupid answer to a question, and then you just get people jump on them. And people don't go on a quiz, they go on a quiz show to win money and to have bragging rights at Christmas, but they don't go on to become famous.
Yeah. Because I started on TV the similar time to you, 2013, when Twitter was massive. Mm-hmm. And when I was doing Extra Factor, I was getting 7,000 tweets a day about you, and they are horrible, a lot of them. And I was 22 at the time. I'd been a clubbing comic, and then all of a sudden, I'm in this world where everyone hates me because I'm not Ollie Murs. It was mental.
I still do hate you because you're not Ollie Murs.
I know. But it was just this, it's because even when I was on Extra Factor, they go, oh, you're basically like a contestant because we just plucked you out of nowhere. I'd never done any telly.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I didn't get any psych help, and it would have been probably quite useful.
Yeah. Well, same for me. I was fortunate enough when I started TV, and like Big Brother's bit on the side was my first job. I was lucky to be older. So I wasn't quite 40 yet. I was not far off 40, but I was a father of 4. I'd been through the mill a bit. I was also a raging alcoholic, so I could give less of a shit what people thought of me.
And also, you've been in the biz a bit because of Holy Moly.
Yeah, but I was hired for a bit on the side to be the horrible one. That was my job. Alice Levine was there to be Alice. Emma was there to be the brilliant, like, lovely Emma, the mum that everyone was desperate to speak to, and I was just there purposefully to wind people up.
Yeah. Which you do love doing.
Well, I'd less nowadays, but certainly then.
Yeah.
The half bottle of whiskey before every live show went some way to helping with that.
Yeah.
But I used to get trolled mercilessly by Digital Spy.
Digital Spy. I remember when I used to do stand up on Big Brother, the audience hated me. They used to call me the Oxbridge on Digital Spy. I don't have a degree. They've just gone, that's what they thought. They're like, right. And and the problem is, you must know the psychology of this, of the worse it gets, the more, like, it's so addictive looking at the worst possible things people are saying about you.
100%.
About yourself as well. You're looking for it.
Yeah, 100%. So 2004, though, before our time in TV, but Big Brother 5 had come off the back. I just want to set the scene a little bit in terms of why Big Brother 5 was immediately slightly more antagonistic than ever. It had just come off the back of the previous series, Big Brother 4, which itself had come off the back of Big Brother 3, which arguably is probably one of the most successful reality TV series of all time. Kate Lawler won. Jade Goody became Jade Goody.
Alison
Hammond was there. It was an extraordinary few months of TV. Big Brother 4, for whatever reason, like, misfired massively. There was
casting. It was the casting because they'd shifted from 3 where they saw what potentially could have happened to Jade, right? Because the country hated Jade and Graham Norton hated Jade. Remember, he came on with a pig mask on one of his shows. Wow! And everyone was really anti Jade, and she was a bit dim, and no one is stupid became. She wasn't that educated.
She was written about as being the worst
person ever.
The worst, as Britain putting their worst foot forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas in hindsight, actually,
it was brilliant.
She was great.
Well, it's amazing because I don't remember that, but I remember her being like the new Princess Diana, basically.
Yeah.
So when did that happen?
That happened after Big Brother. So it's halfway through or toward the end when public opinion began to sway and change. I'm not sure if somebody had a word with somebody behind the scenes at Channel 4. Graham Norton started to be positive about her because he was quite a big thing. And then opinion turned and everyone loved Jade, and then she was evicted, and then she came back in. I think to bring her back in. I can't remember something.
Well,
happened.
we could literally do 5 episodes just on Jade.
Goody,
but because that happened, and they were really kind of, we saw how powerful the public could be before Twitter. Then the casting for Big Brother 4 was a bit calmer, so they went for a bit more people like us, sort of regular sort of people. And it turns out, if you put regular people inside a flat, they don't do much. They
just rub along quite nicely.
Cameron went on
Which
to
one for
win
dinner?
Yeah. Well, Big Brother 1, the first Big Brother, people were genuinely pretty normal. The only thing that kind of changed that was Nasty Nick.
Yeah.
Had he not done it, it would have been, life could have been, we would probably not be sat here talking about Big Brother 5 now.
No.
Cameron went on to win it. So Big Brother, they knew they needed, there'd been a bit of backlash for the first time. They'd had like 4 huge series. They knew that something needed to change. So the housemates that went in for Big Brother 5 were Nadia, Jason, Daniel, Shell, or Michelle, Stuart, a.k.a. Chicken Stew. Sorry, Shell is different from Michelle. Sorry, just to clarify. Emma, Victor, Ahmed, Becky, Marco, Vanessa, and Kitten.
Ken got thrown out in the first week, and she wouldn't leave, and then they started to take money off the prize money until they eventually were throwing her out the house, get her out. Yeah.
And Fight Night, which was the accumulation of actually happened quite early doors. Actually, I think it was only like 20 odd days in, which is not a lot of time in Big Brother land, really.
Day 23 is always when things kick off.
Is it?
Always, yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that? Or
because it's kind of like they're past the novelty, right? They've had a few evictions. They're getting used to one another, so they're comfortable with one another. They're getting really bored. There's more ahead of them than there is behind them, and they're like, oh my god, there's more. And then just the smallest thing gets on people's nerves.
Right.
The way somebody chews their food, or they fart, or they don't flush the toilet.
Yeah.
All of that. Like, hair extensions was always a thing lying everywhere. That they would argue about, and then they just turn.
Yeah,
it just takes one thing, and then all of that tension just comes forward, and then it calms down again.
Matt, do you remember anything about Fight Night?
Like I remember that series of Big Brother, but I was 12, so no, I wasn't really watching it. Yeah, I was
disgusting, isn't it?
But you both, I mean, look, you're both very handsome, sort of.
I'm not sleeping with
gentlemen.
you. And you keep asking, it's not happening.
I'm trying to get on
happening.
SAS Who Dares Wins. If I don't cry during that, I won't cry when they yell at me.
Oh, you'll cry.
But yeah, so I remember it being like a big talking point, and Nadia being a big talking point. So I do remember it, but I don't remember the specifics of Fight Night.
Right. Okay. And Gareth, what was your involvement in that series?
That series, I was doing pieces to camera on a Sunday night. There was little drop-in psychology slots. So I would be saying, Nadia's a male to female transsexual. That means blah, blah, blah. And you would do a piece about Nadia, or you would do a piece about the body language. And there was slightly more intellectual people, sort of professors there, talking about, micro movements and micro gestures and stuff, and reading into the tiny little fractions.
Channel 4 was still clinging on to the social experiment angle.
Remind me, who did you have on every week on Big Brother's bit on the side?
We had a woman who predicted the next eviction by throwing asparagus on the floor.
Yeah.
Channel 5 versus Channel 4. What can I say?
They had live streaming then, and Fight Night was kicking off. I remember just my jaw hitting the floor going, oh my God.
Post eviction, or was it post an eviction night, or was it a false eviction? I can't remember.
It was a post eviction. Someone had gone.
Yeah.
And it was Friday night. Yes, someone had gone, and they had, unbeknownst to the other housemates, 2 of the housemates had been put into a secret bed sit the week before. They thought they'd been evicted. There was a double eviction, but there wasn't. They'd gone into a secret bed sit and watched the entire week.
Yeah.
And also controlled bits of the house so they could turn the water cold if somebody was in the shower, or they could lock the doors and not let people in from the outside. So they did a little bit of control over what was happening in the house.
Yeah.
Thing was, they got to see what other people were saying about each other.
For the first time
ever. Yeah.
It was like having the secret traitor. It was like, oh my God, this is exciting.
Yeah.
They gave them such power because they really got to see all the dynamics and who was making alliances with whom, and what people would be nice to people. As you are, everyone's got a face for somebody and they go, I hate them.
Yeah.
So but they got to see all these asides, and Michelle
and Emma.
And Michelle had the thing for stew,
chicken stew,
and
I think they ended up having sex at some point
in the house.
I think that was a first as well. But
they didn't show it, did they?
No, because they were hidden under a table with a tablecloth. Am I remembering that right? Did they have sex?
Something happened.
I think maybe a hand job.
Yeah,
definitely.
there was.
Oh well, I mean that's hardly.
I mean, God,
cutting edge.
Yeah, no pregnancies. But
not like Makosi.
Oh my God, I remember that. That was a couple of years later, wasn't it?
That was Anthony Hutton, the Immaculate Conception in the hot tub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, poor Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
So I think it all kicked off quite late. Lots of booze was involved. The reveal was incredible. Their 2 cloches were lifted up to reveal their heads. Genuinely, just an insane moment of television. But then, as it crept towards midnight, the milk started to sour. And you were watching at home, right?
I was watching at home, yeah. So they said the post-eviction party, they wheel in this table, 2 big cloches think there's food, pull it up, it's Emma's head and Michelle's head, and they're like, I'm under the table. And then out they come, and then they start, oh my God, where are you? And was it Victor and Jason storm out of the house because they're raging that they've come back because they really didn't like them. And they start bitching in the garden, and then it just began to sort of heat up, and you never guess what you said about him, and what are you doing going talking to her? And there was all of this kind of stuff going on back and forth, and then they just started to get more and more drunk, and then they started to shout at one another, and then fingers were getting waved and people were getting a bit more aggressive, and then they cut the feed and it went to birds tweeting and a close-up of the cooker or the
Crucially,
garden.
they kind of they kind of fucked up a bit because they cut the visuals.
Yeah, but they kept the sound.
The sound.
That's right.
So it sounded. I've seen it since.
It sounded like you were on the front line of a war zone.
Yeah, and I don't know why they did that, because I mean, and I remember sort of being on set on Big Brother when the live streaming was it. There's guys just sitting watching it, and then they can push a button. If anyone mentions a brand name, or they start singing a song or something like that, they sort of push the button. Yeah. Or they start speaking about somebody on the outside that they're not allowed, like a family member, because they've not got permission. So there's lots of reasons why it used to go to Birdsong, but they would always just cut the sound first. And you would just see what was happening. But for some reason they cut the visual.
I'll tell you what, next episode that comes, we might have someone on that we'll be able to ask on that. And it was Larry, and it was uncomfortable, and it was ugly, and it was messy. But to be fair, that's what Britain was like at the time. Right? So the culture of drinking.
It's just Yates's on a Saturday.
I mean, genuinely.
It was all a bit over nothing. He said, she said, she doesn't actually like you. He says this about you. It was all, it wasn't about anything that serious.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that amazing photograph that appeared like in one New Year's Eve where everyone was just saying this is like Renaissance art?
Yes, Manchester.
Where there's that guy lying in the road, like with his perched on, while there's a policeman looking over, and there's a girl
sick.
kind of like being sick in the corner. That was Britain every single. If you weren't, unless you were in like a posh part of Britain, like London or not London, but like I came from Derby, and that is what provincial Britain was. And to be fair,
Derby very much is still
is. And let's not forget, smoking was also like a huge part of life. Everybody smoked. I think I was probably on 40 a day back then.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%. And they'd run out of cigarettes as well in the Big Brother house, hadn't they?
Nadia was very addicted to cigarettes, and that was a huge... Yeah, they'd run out of cigarettes. And they always would run out of cigarettes, and then they would start borrowing stuff from other people. And
so if you're a smoker and you're bored, you smoke.
That's all there is to do.
That's all there is to do.
Even if you don't smoke and you're bored, you'll start smoking.
Yeah.
And then they're all twitching because they don't have any cigarettes.
Yeah, and that makes you crazy.
Does it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But Big Brother knew that, right? Let's not... They,
Yeah, they want them on edge.
And there was also no real clear guidelines, if I'm right, at the time about how much alcohol went in. So after that, things became a little more rigid. But
I think they were allowed to buy alcohol as part of their shopping budget, which I think changed later on.
Mm-hmm.
But Fight Night was special because it was a party night. So
they brought in a load of booze.
I think there's a great shot of them. Literally, they're just continually filling up each other's half-pint glasses with champagne, like just for hours, just constantly.
Yeah.
It's like champagne drunk is not very. I've not been drunk for a long time. I can remember champagne drunk being not particularly nice drunk.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, but I guess once again they're just like, well, this is what people do. There's no thought of going, well, they're on television. There's this, and also they're in a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah, and also by that point, you put a bunch of strangers together. You're not expecting them to get on with each other because they just don't. Because you don't get on with people.
How
you don't know.
boring would that be? As well?
Yeah, exactly. We're all extroverted. If they had an opinion, they had no filter. It would just come straight out their mouths. And when you put a whole bunch of people like that together, it's chaos.
It's sort of the person in a friendship group you have to pre-warn people about.
Yeah.
Which I found out recently is me. The thing is, when I did Coach Trip, we didn't have psych tests on Coach Trip, and that's why they never made one again. But like me, I was like, oh, I am the mildest personality on here, which was quite a shock.
Yeah.
And it was like that in there. Like, you could be in life the biggest thing, but on that Big Brother, you weren't at all.
No. Were you involved in the aftermath of Fight Night in a professional capacity, or
no?
We're just in front of camera.
There were ripple effects from Fight Night.
Yeah.
In that suddenly the press got very interested in the psych aspect of it and how these people were picked, and because myself and the other on-screen psychologists were the sort of faces.
We worked together on Big Brother, like in the Channel 5 days, and I was, I went through the whole audition process with you, I think.
So I've applied for Big Brother. Yep. What's the psych process?
So what the psych process? I used to be, I think they're called stage 4, right? So you would go through all these various auditions. You would go to the big open audition, then they would whittle it down, so from however many thousands down to hundreds. Then they would go and see the producers, and then if the producers liked them, they would come and see me and my colleague. And at that point, what we would do is you spend an hour. So you would sit an hour and a half, and we would just sit and talk. And I would, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a psychiatrist, so I would just sort of talk to people and get it from that. But my psychologist I worked with, he would do this sort of questionnaire personality sort of stuff. And biggest predictor of a good outcome on a reality show is what your support network is like. Right? If you've got friends that say to you, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's only TV." You know.
Yeah.
Then you're all right. If you've got family and people, if you can maintain relationships for a while, you're fine. The worrying ones are the ones that go, "Oh, my best friend, she came with me. Oh, how long have you known her? 6 weeks. Well, she's not your best friend." You know, so people that can't maintain relationships or are falling out with everybody, they don't tend to do well. Not they can do very, very well in the show and that they cause a lot of editorial stuff, but they don't do well afterwards. So I would always view it, how is this life event going to affect this person's life?
Yeah, and would there be a lot of like, I remember this when I worked on X Factor with the contestants, they'd be like, you know, this is a life-changing experience. And when they get to the live show, you'd be like, well, a week later, you're going back to fucking work.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a life-changing experience for the majority. And would there be a lot of management of expectation with you?
Yes, but that's really difficult to do because everyone thinks, you know,
they think they're the exception.
Everyone that goes into a casino thinks that they're going to win. Everyone that walks across the road thinks they're not going to get run over by a bus. But, you know, the inevitability is... I was always really clear with them and say, what you're gambling with, you're giving away your privacy to this company for free, and by giving away your privacy, you're gambling that you're going to get more back in return for giving that up.
Yeah.
Right? Now, some people do.
The law of diminishing returns just isn't something that anybody wants to accept, right?
No.
And so they go through all of those stages, and it gets more and more intense. You know, you go and you film your little VTs. You do, you know, the little things where it's just like, now let's meet Nadia. You know, they cut to those really lovely shot kind of like things that are usually done in a hotel somewhere. They are then whisked away under blankets and secrecy. Bearing in mind, like Big Brother was so fucking big at the time.
Huge.
They were taken out of the country more often than not.
Really?
Under a blanket in a blacked out car. So they had their phone, their passport and everything taken off them, and were taken into isolation for a fortnight, where they had a chaperone who more often than not was someone who worked for Endemol.
It was to get them away from the press launch, because then often back in the day they would show pictures of the house, Davina, you know, walking down, photos and all that. So there would be no leakage of who was going in. Sometimes names came out. I mean, Channel 4 must have spent a fortune because they would go to France, they would go to the Netherlands. They were all sort of reasonably sort of the north coast, but close enough to London, but far enough away.
That's crazy.
So we went to Scotland, you know, and really sequestered away in the middle of nowhere. Not allowed to see a newspaper, not allowed to see the TV. They could watch DVDs, play games.
No phone, nothing.
Just the chaperones, God bless them. It was a really hard job.
Yeah.
Dull.
Well, dull, but also you're thinking you're with a housemate who is, you know, is good enough to carry a show, right, for 10 weeks potentially. They're kind of a bit extra. And if you're stuck in a little house with somebody who's a bit
you're
extra,
on a mini version of the show with them.
They're also like super excited, super nervous, you know.
And also anything where you spend 24/7 together is a very like it is in the house. The relationship formation and that parasocial thing is so intense.
And the housemates are really sneaky, and they would try and get their hands on the chaperones' phones and once one of them got access to a WhatsApp group where people have been talking about it. I mean, there's a whole load of stuff. They're pretty wily because they're wanting to know what's going to happen.
And it's such a tense time for the program makers as well, because so much money, everything. There's a lot at stake here.
Yeah.
You know, like losing a housemate at that stage is a nightmare.
Lindsay Lohan was going in, wasn't she?
Oh no, yeah, that was when I was on it, and we had to go and
then she pulled out the day off. Is that correct?
So I got sent on a wild goose chase to try and find Lindsay. Lindsay Lohan was on Big Brother Dollar, staying in the Dorchester Hotel. And the deal was that she was going in for a day or 2 days. Because they did that. I think Pamela Anderson went in.
Stormy Daniels as well.
Stormy Daniels did it.
No, you shouldn't go
and Lindsay Lohan was going to do it. She had been flown over. She had been staying at the Dorchester and just decided not to do it.
She?
And just
so did Stormy Daniels. She decided not to do it just before she was about to go on.
Was this post-Donald Trump stuff?
Post-Donald Trump, they spent a fortune getting her over because he was president. And they thought she might get arrested at customs, so they'd spent a fortune on immigration lawyers and stuff. And she came over and she was like, yeah, I think I might just go and speak to the host and just say what I want to say and then leave. And I went, I'm not sure you can do that. It doesn't really work.
Gareth, how have reality TV contestants changed since 2004? How has the aftercare had to adapt since Fight Night?
Oh, well, I mean, that's two questions. Their reality contributors have changed because, well, they're a lot more savvy. They just know what to say. They're very much, back in the day, everyone thought they were going to become you, or you a TV presenter. That's what they all wanted to be. I want to be a TV presenter. I want to present my own show, right? Now they want to be Insta famous. So social media massively changed it. And it's for the good and for the bad, because they get annihilated. I mean, I work on Drag Race, and the queens just get destroyed, really horribly trolled. It's really, it does affect people.
Very vicious.
It's very personal.
Really,
as well,
vicious, really
it?
personal, and you know, all they're doing is entertaining people. You know what I mean? It's get over yourselves. So aftercare now involves a lot more of sort of dealing with that, dealing with one, the sort of broken dreams that is never what they expect is going to be, the aftermath of it. And I try and the way I deal with people has sort of changed over the years. Now what I'm saying to people is, TV doesn't make you famous, but it gives you a platform. So you know, you're going in, say for example, Drag Race, you're going into the houses of everybody in the country for 10 hours on the BBC. That's advertising that Coca-Cola would chew their arm off for. So if you can think of yourself as leverage, and you've got that reach into people's houses, they don't know who you are. What you do after that is up to you. So it's taking your social media forward.
This isn't the end game. This is the
first.
Well, that's
start.
it. And I think that's all stand-ups. They're like, you get on telly because you want to sell tickets. So because the telly's not the goal, it's kind of a healthy step. And I think that's what people need to. And also, I think you get a year before the next series is out of anything. So you need to go and do what. I think people think, well, this is me done, but actually, like, and there's, you know, I think Love Island's now 2 series a year at the moment. She's got 6 months.
The baton gets passed very quickly.
So like you just, and I think before you know it, you're too famous to go back to work, but you're going to have to go back to work. Like that's a very complicated place to be for. We had a really nice psychologist on X Factor dealing with the contestants, and it was back in the day where they would do the nightclub tour, you know, so you'd go and do Thursday, Friday, Saturday every week after. And so there was a big conversation that they all thought they were going to end up as a megastar, and their whole thing with the contestants was to go, use it to buy a house. Use this. Look at this as I can buy a house with no mortgage, and then the rest of my life is mine to decide what I want to do. You can't look at it like you're going to be Harry Styles, because that isn't how these things work. And it was quite a healthy way of looking at it. I think that's, like you say, it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. Yeah. And it's but that's not how people often, and a lot of people will come in thinking television is going to change their life and it's going to make them better and it's going to improve everything. And actually, it doesn't. You know, and if you think about it from. Well, both of you guys are well known, right? So if you go from being not well known,
it's very kind of you.
I mean,
well, it's you know, to being well known, it affects your interactions with your friends. So if you're out in a pub, people want to come and talk to you, or they'll be hovering with a phone to get a selfie, and then your interactions with your actual pals or your family, you're like, oh God, I don't want to go out with Jamie. It's so annoying. People just want to take photos all the time. That's really irritating.
I mean, that's not the irritating bit. It's that people come up going. They say, I don't even fucking know who you are. And like people are aggressive with you.
My mate says that I should know who you are.
Yeah.
That's the
or people coming up
one.
being like I'm from quite a small hometown, like people coming up and being like horrible to you rather than like I'd love more people to ask for selfies. But also you get, I think a lot of these people think, it's a job. Like, you know, I talk a lot on TikTok about like, it's a job where you're not going to make millions. Like you can work away and it's like a mid-level job.
You've got to hustle.
But you've got to hustle. Like, and I think a lot of these people think, I'm going to do a reality show and then it all gets handed to me.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, so, you know, Fight Night was pre all of this, though.
Yeah, totally.
Fight Night, people still believed in the dream.
Yeah.
And the dream was there, though, because Fight Night was, you listed the other shows that were on that year. Now, if you were to list all the reality shows that are on this year, I mean, you'd be here all day. So there was a smaller pool of reality show contestants. So the odds of you getting a job in television, like Alison Hammond, for example, she got one. You know, Kate Lawler became a really successful DJ. You know, so people did use it as a springboard then, but then that changed. Really, when Love Island got you know, it's the same with how it changed. But Love Island was the thing that
but also the spoils were there as well. So you could, you know, you were voted out. You were voted out of Big Brother. You could genuinely make £500,000 in a month.
All the magazines, all of those things.
The agents used to come and bid for the housemates.
Yeah.
You know, they used to. It was literally
the rumor was that John Knoll, who was the agent, who's Davina's agent,
Yeah.
and also Dermot's agent. Still is Dermot's agent.
Yeah, still is Dermot's age. He's not Davina's.
The rumour is that he was like Albert Slugworth in Willy Wonka. So that when the housemates like were let out, Davina would do the kind of throw to break. And they would, in between them walking from outside where the crowd were to the studio where Davina did the interview, John Knoll would be there like a little Albert Slugworth, who would be like, pss, pss, pss. So before they'd even done their eviction interview, they were already signed up to John Knoll. I've got no idea if that's true. He's already sued me once in my life. I'd rather not do it again. Yeah. So John Knoll, I've no idea if that's true.
Write in and let Jamie know if it's true. Correct the record.
Just not via shillings this time. It all leads up to a fascinating event. Fight night for me was such a big turning point. I think it was for Big Brother as well and for reality TV. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. It was the first time we'd faced. The first time the police were called to Big Brother house. Wasn't the last. Wasn't the last.
Yeah. Was it not?
No.
I mean, they enjoyed being in the camera runs. I think certainly by Channel 5 times.
But many times.
So this has been absolutely brilliant. I've worked in this industry and I still found that conversation utterly fascinating.
So interesting.
Gareth, thanks so much for coming on.
More than welcome.
Really, really appreciate it.
Can I ask Gareth a question just before we go?
Please do.
Having known what you know now and working in it for so long, can you watch reality telly and objectively enjoy it?
Never.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
No.
Thank you.
Matt, I'm not done with you yet.
Oh, shit.
We're going to record another episode shortly, and people that have enjoyed this episode, I don't know what the hell is going to happen. It's going to be utter carnage, but we're going to get right under the skin of Fight Night. We're going to reunite two of the absolute kings and queens of Fight Night.
Amazing.
Along, really interestingly, with two of the people that made that show and were working that night as well. Have a watch of this.
So then it became Jason and Vanessa and me. But then that's is that
that's not the version. I'm not going to say
version.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, this is the polite version.
This is the PG version.
Yeah, this is the PG version.
Come on, let's do it.
Gareth, Matt, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching this on YouTube. Don't forget, please do hit the follow button if you're watching on Spotify or on Apple. Follow the show. But thank you so much. This has been Tales from the Celebrity Trenches. We will see you next time.